So prior to yesterday's iPhone 7 keynote, I was pretty much dead set on the iPhone that I was going to get. I was definitely going to get an iPhone 7 Plus because it seemed like a no-brainer. The camera improvements over the smaller iPhone 7 were going to be huge. They were going to just be a huge differentiator that made it obvious that I wanted to go with the larger iPhone. Well, after the event, things aren't so simple. Things aren't so straightforward because really there isn't much of a difference, at least yet. Now, obviously, the primary differentiator between the iPhone 7 and the 7 Plus is that second 56mm telephoto lens. That does make a big difference because you're effectively getting a 2x zoom. The standard 28mm lens, which is on both devices, now has a companion lens on the larger iPhone 7 Plus, a 56mm telephoto lens. So that's basically 28 times 2, 56. So you get a 2x zoom that is optical zoom, not your standard digital zoom that is terrible. So that does make a difference. However, I'm not sure that that makes a big enough a difference to make me want to go with a larger device like the iPhone 7 Plus. I'm still on the fence about this. Now, you do get an additional feature, that new bokeh feature that's exclusive to the iPhone 7 Plus. Although it's not shipping with the 7 Plus, it's going to come as a part of a later software update. But you do get that feature, and that is a big deal because it actually leverages the power of both cameras to create a depth map. It uses machine learning to really identify people in shots and portrait shots, and can separate the background from the foreground that you're focusing on and give you that really nice shallow depth of field effect. And that is only possible on the larger device, the 7 Plus. So that is software combined with the hardware that really takes advantage of both these cameras and really does sort of separate the iPhone 7 Plus from its smaller version. Now, that is pretty much the only thing, though, when you consider both of these devices. That's really the only thing that separates these two. Both of them have optical image stabilization. Both of them come with a much wider aperture, an f1.8 aperture, which is going to give you better low light photography, better low light in videos. Both of them, like I said, come with optical image stabilization, so there's no longer this iPhone 7 Plus only OIS feature. So both cameras are now aligned in that regard. Everything's pretty much the same. Both of them get the new 12 megapixel sensor, which is 60% faster, 30% more efficient, has bigger pixels supposedly, although Apple really doesn't allude to how much larger the pixels are. Phil Schiller just stated that it has large pixels. Apple's no longer actually publishing the pixel size in their tech specs on their website like they used to do, so I don't know why that is. Now, here's something else to consider: storage. Now the iPhone starts with 32 gigabytes in its base model. So that means the 16 gigabyte SKU is no longer a thing. Apple now sells a 32 gigabyte base model along with a 128 gigabyte model and a 256 gigabyte model. Very, very good news for users. Now, colors. Both new iPhones come with two new colors, black and jet black. Now, jet black is sort of the glossy hero color that Apple is really pushing in its advertisements, and in its keynote, it's what it showed off when it unveiled the iPhone 7, and it looks really good. But there are some things to consider when it comes to jet black. Number one, it is very susceptible to fingerprints. This thing is a fingerprint magnet. It goes without saying. Number two, it's also apparently a micro scratch prone. Apple actually posted a little note, a little footnote in its materials there that said that basically this thing was prone to micro scratches, so you may want to use a case if that's something that may bother you, but it made it seem like it was pretty much inevitable. The regular black version, however, is more akin to if you remember the iPhone 5's black, which is actually my favorite iPhone design ever. It had the best looking color in my opinion. The iPhone 5's black was sort of like a dark matte black. Well, this new black color that is available on the iPhone 7 and 7 Plus is sort of like the iPhone 5's color, from what I'm able to gather. Of course, I haven't gone hands-on with these just yet, but that's what it looks like. So I think I'm going with the black color because here's the catch right here. The new jet black with its glossy color is only available in 128 gigabytes and 256 gigabyte SKUs. So that means you'll have to pony up at least an extra $100 in order for the privilege of using a new jet black iPhone 7 or 7 Plus. So if you're getting the glossy iPhone 7 or 7 Plus, you're going to pony up more money, basically. Now you can purchase the base model 32GB version of the iPhone 7 or 7 Plus and get it in the normal black matte color, which is where I'm leaning at this point in time. Now, battery life will be improved on both devices. The iPhone 7 will get 2 hours of additional battery life over the 6S, and the 7 Plus gets an extra additional hour over the 6S Plus. So the question is, which one will I buy? Now, of course, there are many new features to explore when it comes to both of these phones, but overall, what I'm seeing here is that both devices are almost exactly the same. Now, outside of the obvious size differences and battery differences, and there may be a difference in RAM. I've seen 3GB tossed around for the iPhone 7 Plus versus 2GB for the iPhone 7. But outside of that, both of these devices are pretty much the same device. Unlike the last generation, the 6S and the 6S Plus, or the 6 and the 6 Plus, where you had optical image stabilization differences and everything like that, these cameras are literally exactly the same. The only difference is that you get an additional camera on the 7 Plus. You get that additional telephoto lens on the 7 Plus, which gives you the effective 2x zoom. So that's going to be up to you. Do you really need that extra zoom? Do you need that new bokeh feature? You know, something that you're going to have to consider. Personally, for me, I always want the best camera that I can get with the iPhone. So I am leaning towards a 32GB iPhone 7 Plus in black. That's where I'm leaning thus far. That could change between now and pre-order time, but that's where I'm leaning thus far. Apple definitely could add additional features to the iPhone 7 Plus with software updates. Of course, we know the update with the bokeh feature is coming this fall. But it can also add additional new features and take advantage of that new dual camera module. I think this is just the tip of the iceberg. Apple probably didn't have time. It seems like they ran up against some time constraints because the new bokeh feature wasn't even available during the demo yesterday after the keynote. So this just isn't finished yet, obviously. So they're probably just running up against time constraints, and they probably have a whole bunch more things and ideas planned for the future. iOS 11, more than likely, we're going to see a lot of new features, take advantage of that dual camera module. So for future-proof reasons, you may want to consider an iPhone 7 Plus as well, especially if you consider keeping your phones for longer than a year. If you upgrade year over year, then it's probably not going to be as big of a difference. But if you're planning on hanging on to this phone for any considerable amount of time, you may want to go with the larger model if you want all the new features that are coming in future versions of iOS. So ladies and gentlemen, that is my decision. 32GB iPhone 7 Plus in black. What about you? What will you be picking? Let me know down below in the comments section. Also leave me a thumbs up and subscribe if you appreciated this video. This is Jeff with 9to5Mac.